you like sadness? If you don't like sadness, I hope you did not watch AEW WrestleDream. You have to excuse me. Got something in my eye, and it's probably a nail that John Moxley put in there. Also, hello, my friends, and look, we have to do the quickest intro ever, because WrestleDream was a long old show, and there is loads to talk about, but it's just a review show with me, Simon Miller, and we review things using the finger of power. If I like something, it gets it up. If I don't like something, it gets it down. And remember, you shouldn't listen to me. I'm a buffoon. Let's up those downs. And we kicked off with a banger. The really stuff like this makes me scratch my head with AEW, because sometimes they seem so against it, and other times they embrace it like they did it here, because it was Hangman Adam Page versus Jay White, and both of these guys should have won. Only one guy could have won, so we picked Jay White, and we rode it all the way to the shops. Now, it doesn't mean I think anything less of the cowboy. It's not like we took his momentum and flushed it down the toilet, and instead we just came up with a way to finish this where you can go, well, both these guys are just so damn great. But don't do this with your arms. You also have the story too, because Jay did get the victory here, meaning he did get his revenge against Hangman Adam Page, and now I suppose he can move on to Christian Cage, and that rhymes, so that's fun, and then maybe even get a world title shot. I mean, why not? We do have a brand new world champion, and he's a criminal, and somebody's got to stop him. White also made sure to slap Hangman at the start of this because he does hate him. Then eventually, the cowboy was flipping everybody up. So what did the fans do? They said, "Flub you, Adam." I think they liked him. Now, Jay eventually whammed Hangman right in the lead when he also suplexed his ass. Well, he just suplexed him. He didn't suplex his ass, because that wouldn't make any sense. And as it turned out, this was going to tie directly into the finish, because throughout this, Hangman was like, oh man, my horse riding leg is all screwed up. This got doubly worse when he did flip out of another suplex and he landed on that wound when he went to Jay White and he gouged his eyes. I was like, if this was a match with him and Swerve Strickland, do you know what he'd do? He would have removed this seeing device and probably eaten it and then bled all over him and got a syringe. I never want to see those two fight again. Jay was able to survive all this when he started to pose and taunt for the crowd. And why does nobody listen to me? I mean, you shouldn't listen to me because I'm an absolute idiot. We've already covered this, but I've told you, you cannot do it in 2024. Leave your D-pad alone, because Hangman was able to recover. And what did he do? He dropped Jay on the ring apron, and I called some people. That's the hardest part of the ring. They then continued to play pro wrestling tennis because everybody had some moves. When they just had this horrible powerbomb, I suppose, onto Simba the Steel Step. This has been a theme in wrestling over the last few weeks. It's like, that person's got a back. Why don't I end it? I'm pretty sure Jay White then spat in Hangman Adam Page's face, which isn't a very babyface thing to do, but he also went back to work on that leg. That was smart. It's like figuring out a maths equation. We also teased a count out here, but both guys wanted to win it in the ring, especially Adam, who had a plan. I'm just going to distract the ref, and I'm going to wham Jay right in the balls, but he wasn't able to, because White just got out the way. He also tried for the Blade Runner, but the cowboy got out of that when he hit this dead eye. But not only did Jay White kick out, it really ruined his leg, meaning when he went for the buckshot, he wasn't able to do it, and Jay went, surprise! He was stood there, he hit the Blade Runner, and he just beat him. So even though he is the victor, nobody is going to poop all over Hangman Adam Page, because that would be a weird thing to do. He got injured, and he got done. So that is just sports-based wrestling as far as I'm concerned, and we told a story. This was a great opener. In true AEW fashion, when it comes to pay-per-views, we carry this on too, because the women's world title was on the line. Mariah May versus Willow Nightingale. Now, I've talked about this before, and I really think we should have built this up more, because the fans were so desperate to see Willow get the victory here. Maybe we could have held off on this until you felt it in the air. You could have actually pulled the trigger. Nightingale was just flying at the start here too, using her power and pouncing Mariah May all over the place. But Mariah must have watched The Karate Kid recently, because how did she get back into this? She swept the leg. Bryan knew she had to keep on Willow as well, so was kind of drowning her with punches, when I think Nightingale bit her. I was like, what is up with the baby faces on this show? They're all totally unhinged. She wasn't able to get the Doctor Bomb though, so Mariah was able to hit a German suplex when she was going for Storm Zero, but Nightingale kind of pulled her legs away and applied this submission. I was like, that's pretty cool. They then slapped each other, mostly because it sounds good when Willow went for a moonsault, but she totally missed. That's why they call it high risk, my friends. You've got to make sure you have this down. It led to a great 1-2-ooh for Mariah May, as the fans just went crazy for Willow Nightingale, because I think deep down in their tum-tums they started to believe. But listen, if there was a theme to this AEW show, was that we shouldn't believe in anything, and all our heroes are gonna die. Willow then tried for another pounce, but Mariah headbutted her. But even when she was all wiggly jiggly, she was able to smash her with a lariat so everybody was down. When they were reversing finishes and going for the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, but neither of them could get it. This is when they went to the top rope, and I think Willow Nightingale was gonna do a super power bomb, but instead Mariah was able to turn that into a Hurricane Rana. She got the big knee, she got the Stim Zero, or the Storm Zero. What the hell is the Stim Zero? When you take a bunch of caffeine, but it doesn't work. And yes, she retained her championship. So this was basically like the first match. Of course it's sad Willow Nightingale didn't win, but they had a fight. On this occasion, it wasn't meant to be. Also, it meant we stayed away from shenanigans, and there was going to be so much shenanigans later on in the show. That's exactly the right thing to do. That's a massive round of applause. It's getting another up. When Shabar just kicked Jack Perry's ass. I mean, I'm sure somewhere CM Punk was grinning ear to ear. The TNT title was on the line as well, though, so we kind of did the classic here. We made sure that Shabar took 80% of the match, because he was eventually going to lose. But look, if you don't like Jack Perry, this is probably your match of the year. And Jack was so mad at one point, he went to the outside and started throwing water bottles around. And even when he tried to come back and punch Shabar was like, nah, man, I ain't into this. And he came back with chops and slaps. At one point, kind of drilled Jack Perry into the floor. I mean, it was like a dad whooping his child. He also hit these chops that were so loud, I thought I was getting a steak. If you were in Australia and you were asleep, you probably woke up going, what the hell was that noise? So it really was like watching Superman beat up a civilian. Well, we got some more loogie-ing, because Jack Perry spat in Shabar's face. I was like, man, I don't think you should have done that. And Shabar just came back with this death blow. I mean, if he had pinned him with a 1, 2, 3, I totally would have got it. He also dropped Perry into the ring apron and made some more calls, and it's definitely the hardest part of the ring. And even though Jack was able to apply the snare trap, Shabar was like, I'm the wrestler, dude. That's even my nickname. And he got to the ropes. He then wrecked Perry with a DDT and looked like he was going to win this, because he applied the choke, and you know the deal. If you cannot breathe, you cannot wrestle. But somehow we got back to the wiggling and jiggling, because I suppose Jack put all the pressure onto Shabar's shoulders, and the ref counted 1, 2, 3, and these fans couldn't believe it. They audibly groaned. Shabar was so confused as well that Jack went and got the TNT title and smashed him right in the head. But this is when we got pop number 1, because who came out to make the save? It was Doink the Clown. It wasn't Doink the Clown. It should have been Doink the Clown. It was Danny Garcia. This was just the start of a massive roller coaster, though, because just as he was about to do something, Jack ran away. When MJF's music hit, even the commentators were like, he's not here. And I was like, of course he's here. Otherwise, why would they be playing his music? He was too, and he got a massive reaction as well. And he looked at Daniel Garcia right in the eye to prove this is super duper serious, when that little scumbag Jack Perry was back, and he hit Dan right in the face with the TNT title. So Maxwell started to pound on it. Now you could actually do that pairing too, because don't forget MJF and Jack Perry had that chat maybe a year or so ago. And then Friedman got on the mic, he's like, man, I've been making movies and I'm making millions of dollars. And look what I found in a pawn shop. It's the Dynamite Diamond Ring. But you gotta give props to AEW there, because they've turned that into a good story. Just when he was gonna make Garcia kiss the ring, which is a flubbed up thing to do, we got what was maybe the best return of the evening, because do you know who is back? Adam flipping Cole. Now bless MJF as well, because he sold this like a ghost was coming to get him, and the fans went crazy here. And look, if you know what Cole has been through, this was the most warm and fuzzy tum-tum moment maybe of 2024, and we reversed the roles here, because MJF is the heel and Adam Cole is the face, but I don't mind that. Sometimes you just gotta go with the flow. Maxwell always understands the assignment too, and he just legged it, and we made sure we had a moment between Adam and Danny Garcia. So now you can even do this tag match. So given the match was really fun, and you got this awesome, I think I said it once, I'll say it twice, roller coaster afterwards, I am totally gonna give it up. This was a super fun time. I am gonna be an absolute nerd though and give the finish to Jack Perry and Shabar just like a mini down. It just came out of nowhere, and I don't think it worked. It's not a big deal. Didn't affect the pay-per-view at all, which overall was absolutely brilliant. But that's just how I felt at the time. Now you can get mad at me in the comments. When we got to one of those moments where I have to cross my arms and just look at you, wonderful watcher, and tell you, I don't really know what I meant to do. Because the international title was on the line, and it was Ricochet versus Takeshita versus Will Ospreay. And here's the best piece of advice I can give you today. Watch the rest of Ups and Downs, otherwise I'm going to get fired. And then just go and check this triple threat out. I know it's not for everyone, and it's not everybody's style, but my gosh, I never want this to go away from wrestling, because it was just the most wonderfully bonkers thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it really was like sitting down and trying to do science, because it made no sense, because all three went at 100 miles per hour, and they were flipping here and they were flipping everywhere. When they got bored of that, so they went to the outside, and they were doing the same off Barry Barricade. At one point as well, Will Ospreay and Ricochet did their thing when they flip and look at each other with Superman poses, and Takeshita just booted them both in the face, and all the fans just going, yeah, because they don't care about faces and heels, they just want to see cool stuff. We all then did dives for the good of the game, when, I can't even explain this, but basically I think Ricochet hit a neck breaker onto Ospreay, as Takeshita was also hitting a DDT, or something like that. But essentially we had a three-way move at the same time, and I had to go like to the Isle of Nepal after this to try and be a little bit zen, because like I say, it was just totally nuts. And I don't understand the sentence that just came out of my mouth. Will then blocked the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb, because he knows when he Pele kicked both of these guys in the face when they were jumping off each other, and Will went right into the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, when all of a sudden Ricochet was here, and he took out Takeshita with a Meteora. Also, Ricochet was wearing pants here. He's usually wearing, no pants, he was wearing trunks, and he usually wears pants. I screwed it up. But he then got a table because Ricochet decided he was going to kill Takeshita using that. When Will Ospreay was back with the Spanish Fly. When it was just you go, I go, Grandma's here, she goes, we got a Stars Clash, and Takeshita broke that up at the 1-2. 4.75 stars, 6.29 in the Tokyo Dome. Takeshita then did get the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb. Did it work? No, because of course it doesn't. When we just got these forearms, and honestly, this was the noise. It was like they were trying to kill each other, and that actually hurt my arm. What a wimp. Another pin was then broken up by a 450 when we got what I can only describe as like a Poison Rana train of fun. When we got hidden blades missing, shooting star presses, and I had to go get a coffee because I was like, listen, their energy is way more than mine. I need to amp myself up. The most horrendous part is that eventually Ricochet went to use this table. Takeshita went, nah, bruh, you ain't doing that to me, and essentially crushed him through it with a scrunchy, crunchy, or a tombstone pile driver. I mean, that's essentially what it was. And if you had told me Ricochet is never going to wrestle again, I would believe you. This looked horrible. Will used that to take his med pack, though, when he smashed Takeshita with the hidden blade when he got back in the ring. And just when he was going to get the 3, Don Callis was here, and he pulled the ref out at the 1-2. What a dickhead. Once again, this ties into not doing the nonsense earlier because it meant so much more, especially because then a hooded man ran to the ring. He had a screwdriver and he tried to kill Will Ospreay when he removed his hood. And do you know who it was? It was Repo Man. Shouldn't have done that joke twice. It was a waste of time. Of course it was Carl Fletcher. It was the expected but still very sad heel turn. Takeshita then got the power knee driver, whatever the hell it's called, but William Ospreay was already dead. So we pinned him, he got the 1-2-3, and now he's the international champion. Damn it. Ospreay then did the sad cruel to his former friend. And Carl Fletcher actually laid him out with the Tiger Driver, so now he's definitely been murdered, as these three stood there like the cat that got the cream. The funniest part is the fans were kind of cheering. They were especially happy that Takeshita had win, because sometimes we're just into the chaos. And again, what else could they possibly have done here? I mean, you even got a sports entertainment ending. So I thought this was totally tremendous, and it was the right time to give Takeshita the belt. Let's push him to the moon. And honestly, the way I look at it is this. When you know what they went out there to do, and the style they were trying to be successful with, I'm not just gonna give it an up. I am gonna give it the invisible wiggly hand up, which also these days is the golden up. And I know that's gonna annoy some people, but I always search my feelings like a Jedi during this. I just had such a wonderful time. And these wrestlers are next level. I like all different kinds of wrestling, including this one. Absolutely brilliant. Things then got very interesting too, because apparently AEW Creative has had a little bit of a shuffle, because we saw Jerry Lynn in the back, and he was telling Orange Cassidy, "You're brilliant, man, and maybe you could even get to the top." Hook walked in and he agreed with this sentiment too, so maybe finally Orange Cassidy is going to go for the World Championship. Now, I predicted he would win the world title, as of 2022. So I'm only a few years late, but as long as we get there. He was right into another skit after this, because Swerve Strickland is back. Now the word here is that Bobby Lashley was actually going to turn up, but AEW decided, actually we have a lot of newsworthy stuff already on WrestleDream, so why don't we hold it off to maybe Dynamite? And if that is true, that's another round of applause. This is the way to do it. We have 52 weeks of programming a year. You can spread it out like butter. Prince Nana also introduced him, and Swerve admitted, hey man, it's good to be back, but man, do I feel naked. I don't have a world championship anymore. He also gave a medical update because he is good to go, although he is still feeling it, when out came MVP and Shelton Benjamin. And my gosh, do I love these two together. Of course, they are the Hurt Business or the Pain Clinic or the Owl Sandwich. I don't know what they're going to be called. And they were like, nah, did you even give this guy our business card? Because we haven't heard from you, Swerve Strickland. And that makes us very, very upset. Now, MVP knows how talented Strickland is, but he's not in a good position right now. But if you're talking about someone who can take former world champions and get them back to the top, well, you're looking at him, and his name is Umvup. Swerve then reminded MVP that they had actually fought back into Fire a few years ago, with Strickland getting the win. But actually, he'll admit they are right. Swerve and Nana, over the last few months, have not had a good time. I mean, his house got burnt down, and yeah, he lost his belt. So maybe there's something to be said for the fact that Prince isn't doing his job, especially because he's still selling weed. And if Swerve does team up with MVP and Shelton Benjamin, he would be more dangerous than ever. He also then made sure to give Shelton his flowers and say how important he has been when it came to back wrestlers. And I thought that was damn brilliant, because Shelton Benjamin does not get his due. That guy is absolutely excellent, and we don't sing about it enough. Even then, though, Prince Nana is family, and Swerve always stands behind his family, when Shelton took the mic and was like, dude, you don't understand. We ain't asking, we're telling, and if you ain't with us, you're against us. Now, it looked like they were going to brawl, mostly because Strickland said you can take your business card and stick it up your ass. I was like, dude, you could just say no, they'll still understand. But officials did run out to break this up, so we are planting the seeds for something, namely, I think, the arrival of Bobby Lashley, and I just love them. I don't know why, but I do. They're just so great. So, of course, yes, if Bob did turn up here, it would have been just as good, but this means we can be patient and enjoy the ride, and I enjoy skits like this on a pay-per-view. It breaks things up, so I am giving it an up, and whatever we're going to do here, my gosh, it's gonna be good. When we had the Beast Mortis versus Hologram in a 2 out of 3 falls match, this was totally unhinged. Now look, for one, even though these two guys have been killing it, I would totally understand if beforehand you'd be like, why are we doing this on pay-per-view? But like they have been doing over the last few weeks, Mortis and Hollow were like, well, we'll show you, and they totally did. So they just did arm drags and head scissors to begin with, including the Beast, who defies the laws of gravity. When Hologram did that tope he does, I mean, he stung to rival Darby Allin. It just annoyed Mortis, who hit a Samoan drop. And I don't think he is Samoan, so that was just a drop where he picked up this dude and was like, I'm gonna hurl you into the next dimension. Now, Graham didn't want to restart his life, understandably, so he hit a move when he essentially hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and he pinned him. He got the 1, 2, 3. He was one fall up. I mean, this was done so damn fast, it's exactly the way that maneuver should work. When Mortis just stood up, and he did. He threw Hologram so far, I'm still waiting for him to come back down. He then belly-bellied this guy to death, but he did so many spears, eventually he missed. I was like, Mortis, that was always gonna happen. Plus, it allowed Hologram to hit a moonsault to the outside when they got back in the ring, and the Beast was like, maybe I can hit a powerbomb knee, which he did do, and that looked disgusting. He then followed this up by lariating Hologram's head off, and he too got the 3 with 1-1. After this, they increased the madness when they were just hitting all the moves. They were going through the wrestling maneuver book, including Hologram hitting a poison rana on the ring apron. That's just stupid. He then did a dive and seemed to hurt his leg, but by this point I was like, man, you're probably working me. I have no idea anymore. He then did miss a 450 when Mortis hit him with another lariat. We go back to what we talked about earlier. It was you pin me, I'll pin you. Oh, Nana is here, and I mean my grandma, not Prince Nana, and she's gonna do a pin too. We also kind of sold like the Beast had been injured here because his ribs apparently were screwed up, but you tell me. I've said it once, I'll say it twice, I don't know. Hologram then made sure to copy exactly what he had done for the first 4, which made sense, because if it worked once, why can't it work twice? And when it didn't, he hit the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb, but much like he's done on his previous 2 matches, my gosh, it's finally started to work. So much so he's now broken the space-time continuum and my hair has grown back. And I have 2 things I want to say about this. 1, thank goodness somebody has started to use this as their finishing maneuver. And 2, Hologram has actually added an extra flurry to this, because he knows, deep down he knows. Also number 3, he has started to call it the Portal Bomb, because nobody wants to be associated with Blue Thunder. Look what has happened though. AEW has been patient here and pushed both of these guys, and now they feel like they're actually going to mean something, and I don't care that one won and one lost, I just want to see more. That's another round of applause. Let's get it up. When Darby Allin got killed, rest in peace. I mean, this was always going to happen, and I would have bet my life on this match going. Brody King kills, but eventually loses. That's what we did. Now, King kind of shrugged off any shots before this and just ragdolled Darby around the place when he caught him off a dive and threw him into Simba the Steel Steps. Forget about Darby Allin climbing Mount Everest. How the hell eventually is he even going to climb the stairs? Brody then basically crushed him over those steps and crushed him in the corner too. This was like doing a science experiment where you put a bear and a cat in the same room because you want to see what's going to happen. I don't know what that means. Darby then realized the only way to take this guy down was to hit all the dives, which he did do, when he also got this massive coffin drop. That only got a 1-2-ooh, obviously. He then thought strangling this guy would be the way to go, but Brody is so strong, he started strangling him instead. And the way he threw Allin back in the ring, it was like Darby was a child. That sounds totally flubbed up. The 2 German suplexes we got after this too were just murder on Allin. When I think King went, oh, I know, I'll do a superplex into Simba the Steel Steps. And I was like, please, for the love of everything, don't do that, I can't handle it. Allin agreed because he then kind of used the ropes to cause this momentum, which sends Brody King into Simba the Steel Steps, when of course, Darby did a coffin drop onto those things, because that man is the definition of I don't care. Now that happened outside the ring, so of course Brody had to get in at 9.999. When Allin eventually smacked him one, he hit another coffin drop, and he got the 1-2-3. Now I have zoomed through this way too fast, but it actually served as a very good breaker, I suppose, in the middle of the AEW pay-per-view. It was fast, it was fun, and we got the right winner, and these 2 shook hands afterwards, because deep down they are baby faces, as super duper entertaining. And it was basically the same for our next match too, although you could argue that Private Party should have won. Because it was our tag team title fight with the Young Bucks, and most importantly, even though Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy did lose, let's make sure when we get to Dynamite and we go through the rest of 2024, we have a plan for them, and we relight a fire under the tag division, because right now all the pieces are in place. We got all this shenanigans at the start too, when Matthew Jackson, who was wearing all the pearls that you've ever seen, was like, Private Party, you ain't nothing but a bunch of mid-card failures. When they slapped the Bucks around the face, they fought to the top of the R-way when Mark Quinn jumped off the damn entrance circle thing, and he took out everyone, but I think poor Isaiah Cassidy took this worse than everybody else. From here, everything was nuts as Nicholas hit this springboard facebuster, so Mark Quinn was like, well, I'm going to get both you guys the double Hurricane Rana. How the flub did he do that? Matt had to make a blind tag, and that's when the Bucks were hitting more kicks that were super. And they obviously beat on Mark, and they beat on Mark, and they beat on Mark. When he went, wait a minute, my hand is hot, Cassidy's hand is hot. Hot tag, he ran wild. He hit this awesome spinning DDT, but then Matt Jackson buckle bombed him to death. When the silly string was stopped, so Nicholas returned fire with a crazy dive. He then hit a moonsault off of Barry Barricade when the Bucks went for the TK driver, but that was stopped thanks to a poison Rana. But then Nicholas was back, and he basically did a destroyer off Barry Barricade, so Mark was like, I can do that too, and he did a 450. It meant they almost all got counted out, but eventually got back in the ring when the Bucks went for more bang for your buck, but instead Private Party hit the gin and juice. They got another 1-2-ooh. This is when Matthew and Nicholas were going to go for the EVP trigger, but they missed and they smashed their knees together when Mark hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, but he only got a 1-2-ooh, which is when he realized, oh no, my neck hurts. He was totally boned. It meant Private Party were totally screwed, and the way Matthew Jackson kind of threw them into position for the TK driver was absolutely brilliant. And Nicholas Jackson came out from nowhere, and they got the 1-2-3, and sure, I guess you could argue this was kind of anticlimactic, but that's only because the fans were desperate for Private Party to win. So yeah, just make sure you use this, and everything's gonna be alright. It didn't mean the audience was sad, but that's actually quite a good setup for the main event. And we saw Stokely Hathaway here grinning like the Cheshire Cat. What an asshat. So yes, once again, you could have pulled the trigger here, but we have talked about it. And in terms of doing what you set out to do, it's getting it up. And I think Mark Briscoe and Chris Jericho carried this on. I liked it. Now the ROH title was on the line here, and I shall always be a supporter of splitting up the ROH and AEW stuff, but who ultimately cares? And as soon as the bell rung, Mark went after Chris, because Jericho has said some terrible, terrible things. Somehow Jericho came back with a code breaker, but Mark kicked out at once, so I was doing the dance of joy. When Big Bill was here to check on his elder tree, or whatever we're calling it, so Brisco was like, well, if you're going to get this close, and he dove onto everyone. Of course, soon after this, Chris distracted the referee, which is when Billy Boy booted Mark right in the face. But that's when Orange Cassidy came out, and he fought him to the back. So that's the second thing we did with Orange Cassidy. I think something is coming. Jericho then suplexed Brisco onto the floor because he doesn't care, hit the 10 punches and a Hurricane Rana when he posed. And I was like, Chris, I know you know more about wrestling than I do, and you always will, but why is no one listening to me? In 2024, you cannot talk, you cannot pose, because what happened? Mark Briscoe was back up. They chopped the shit out of him. He then went for the J-Jiller, but Jericho was able to turn that into the walls. But as soon as Briscoe was out of that, he cast distraction once again, because who came running to the ring to punch Mark? It was that damn Brian Keith. This is when Rocky Romero also turned up, and he fought Keith away as well, so the conglomeration is still strong, so I got that one totally wrong. Just goes to show, if you do have a conglomeration, they will be your friends forever. Brisco then went for the froggy bow, but he went right into the code breaker when it was essentially finish, dodge, finish, dodge, finish, dodge, when Jericho got the Judas effect, but he wasn't done there, and he hit the damn J-Driller, and of course, everybody thought that was the end. Mark Briscoe kicked out. He then smacked Christopher right in the face before he hit the froggy bro, and he got the J-Driller for the 1, 2, 3. I just love this guy. Don't even know why he admits something that is so damn enjoyable. This was totally cool, and it got you ready for the main event. Giving it up. When it was like welcome to Upset Lane or something. Because it was Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World title, and they hate each other so much, even before the final countdown had stopped playing, they got into a fight. Now during this, Moxley was strangling Bryan Danielson with cables, and Bryan returned fire, so bring it down. A one the crime counter. I understand if it happens in a match, but we hadn't even had the bell. Marina Shafir then jumped on Danielson's back, which was totally nuts, when all of a sudden a chair was introduced. But Bryan was like, nah man, that ain't happening to me, so he hit the big old knee, but again, the match hadn't officially got underway. And also, when it did, what's the first thing that they did? They went back to the choking. Amazingly, Bryan then hit another big old knee when he did a springboard dive. I was like, listen, all the rumors about his neck are apparently true, and this is what he's doing? He is one of a kind. It didn't help at all because Moxie raked his eyes and hit a pile driver onto Allin the announce table. So you know the deal. We were basically selling it like Bryan's neck was dust. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't handle it. The referee was then trying to deal with Moxley, so Marina started to knee Bryan right in the neck when Moxley stomped on his head. I had to go through the rule book again. I was like, am I watching wrestling? Or is this just like a really bad movie? I mean, it was definitely murder, especially when Mox used Simba the Still Steps, when he exposed the concrete, he was gonna pile drive Bryan into this. Now, thankfully, Danielson reversed it, and instead Moxley took a back body drop on there. But how the hell did we get here to begin with? It just meant the aim of this match was actual death when Danielson was biting Jon Moxley when he dropped him right on his head. I was like, well, this one is totally out of control. Jon was then right back with a stomp for a 1-2 when it was Danielson that hit a power driver when they started to punch each other in the face. I don't think they were working. It ended with the yes kicks and Danielson almost hit the knee, but Marina tripped him up because she's a damn Jezebel, as Jim Ross would say. When Jon Moxley went for the Death Rider, but Danielson got out of that, he did get the knee, 1-2. I was like, I gotta go lay down. It then got even more violent though, because we had all the stomps and the label lock when Moxley went to the outside, and he actually did it. He hit a Death Rider into the concrete. Not for the first time, this crowd went silent. Somehow Bryan still kicked out, which is when Moxley went back to these horrible elbows and started to choke the man again. Do you want to know what Danielson did? He climbed up to the turnbuckle and basically threw them both on the floor, so the pressure was released. They were then trading submissions as Danielson got another big knee when he realized, man, to finish this guy off, I'm gonna have to hit another, when he ran straight into that damn lariat. I was getting scared. This is also when Moxley flipped off the crowd and he hit a Death Rider, and I was like, well, that's got to be it. When Bryan Danielson kicked out at 1. So if you're one of these people who's like, meh, I don't like that spot, you can take it and stick it up your ass. This was brilliant. Bryan then spat at Moxley, which was like the 3rd or 4th loogie on this show, but I'm not starting a spit counter. When he started to slap him, I just think he accidentally hit Jon Moxley's violent button, because he just slammed it with another power driver as he applied the choke. And that's when I knew something bad was coming. As predicted as well, Bryan's brain eventually went, dude, we can't breathe, so if you're not going to do something, I am going to pass out. But Danielson was not able to release this, so he did go to sleep as the referee announced it's over. So Jon Moxley is your brand new AEW champion. Danielson is now semi-retired. Once again, you could feel the hushed atmosphere. So don't you tell me that wrestling doesn't have different kinds of emotion. Actually, we were just getting started. Because the rest of the BCC came out with that damn plastic bag, and they were gonna choke Bryan, so bring it down, that's a 1 on a crime counter. They still had this thought, and you're not allowed to do it, it's illegal. Thankfully, Wheeler Yuta and Darby Allin came to the ring to stop this. But as soon as Darby turned his back, Wheeler Yuta gave him the big old knee, so he's turned heel, and they went and tied Darby to the turnbuckle. So he's an absolute asshole, but Will sold this like he was super sad. But the Blackpool Combat Club did pass him this bag, and he started to try and kill Bryan Danielson. So bring it down. There's the crime counter. This was truly flubbed up stuff. A bunch more baby faces ran down, including Jeff Jarrett, which is when Jim Ross went, no, not Jeff Jarrett, because he got wrecked when we bring back the crime counter, and it goes up by 1, because Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley got a chair, they wrapped it around Bryan's head, and they stomped on it, so now they've officially broken his neck. The entire locker room then emptied, and finally Mox and friends did have to run away. I was like, what took you so long? You should all be ashamed. It meant Danielson was also wheeled out of here on a stretcher, while every single AEW good guy and his dog was watching. And again, this was the saddest thing you've ever seen in your life. This Bryan Danielson, though, this is how he chose to go out. This is why he is one of the all-timers, because he made you feel something in your tum-tum. And yeah, it wasn't a particularly good feeling, but some stories don't end well. I mean, the atmosphere in the room was deliberately horrible, but that was the intent, and look what we've set up here. I am so damn intrigued to see what we do on Dynamite, so let's make sure we don't drop the ball. It's also super compelling because, of course, Bryan Danielson has gone into semi-retirement, but I don't think we're going to see him for a long old time. So it goes to show that actions can have serious consequences. So he really is one of the best of all time, and some people did not like this, but once again, without wanting to repeat myself, that's the whole point. Do you think they did this and expected fans to be like, oh, I'm dancing around my house? No, they wanted to get a visceral reaction, mission achieved. So it really was powerful stuff, and I love it when wrestling companies take a risk like this because you don't know what's going to happen. But it also means I'm going to break my own system, because it doesn't just get an up, it gets the wiggly finger golden up, because just to go over it for a second time, when I watch professional wrestling and it ends, I want to feel things deep down in here. This made me run through my mind like my whole life was changing, and it also proved, as far as I'm concerned, that Bryan Danielson, you are an absolute legend. Which of course brought us to the end of AEW WrestleDream, and I always say this, but they're a little bit too long for me, but I know that some people like that, so I do not care. And in terms of a roller coaster of a pay-per-view, it's getting it up. Now please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is my ups and downs from AEW Dynamite, so you can get all of my dumb opinions, but otherwise, my friends, let's go cry into our cornflakes. It's been a very sad day. I'll see you soon.